I want you to close your eyes and think about your grandma. Many of you might be picturing a soft, smiling woman with white hair and bright eyes, someone who is kind and warm, gives the best hugs, and is the loving, matronly leader of your family. You can open your eyes. What if instead of only leading your family, your grandmother led millions of people, and instead of only her home, serving as a safe haven for her children and grandchildren, it was an entire country? The thought of my grandmother, or anyone's grandmother for that matter, leading a country seems a little silly to me, or at the very least unlikely. But that was the case for Golda Meir, the tough, gray-bun grandmother of the Jewish people, a woman who overcame all odds and who shows us that nothing is impossible. Today I will be telling you about one woman's journey in Middle Eastern politics and her role in establishing a country founded with the purpose of keeping the Jewish people, a group that has faced constant persecution for thousands of years, truly safe for the first time in history. Golda Meir, born Goldie Mabovich, was born in Kiev, Ukraine in 1898. She immigrated to the U.S. and settled with her family in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and later went to the New School in Milwaukee. And there she attended college also, and soon she became the leader of the Milwaukee Labor Zionist Party. She got married, and in 1921, she and her husband moved to what was then known as Palestine and settled in a community called the Merhavia Kibbutz. She held a number of influential positions there, and this was the start of, her taking on leadership roles. In 1946, British forces arrested a group of influential Jewish Zionists, and in this group was a man named Moshe Sharet, who was the head of the political department of the Jewish Agency. Because he was arrested at the time by British forces, Golda took over his position. Before this point, Golda held small positions, and although typically successful in whatever challenges she confronted, her power and reach were pretty limited. And so this, taking on the position of Moshe Sharetz as the head of the political department of the Jewish Agency was a significant advancement for her. Essentially, it marked the beginning of her intensive diplomatic career. Arguably, one of the most significant things Golda Meir did in her life was the role she played in establishing the country of Israel. In 1948, Israel was in desperate need of military supplies to protect themselves from foreign threats, so Golda went to the U.S. and managed to single-handedly raise $50 million that went towards protecting Israel. And it made all the difference for them. It was an incredible help and changed everything for them. During her life, Golda held numerous positions in public office, almost always positions previously only held by men, which is incredible given the time and circumstance. Golda helped to establish both domestic and international policies, many of which created lasting effects that are still in place today. Some of these policies are that she created better houses and roads in Israel, or what was then Palestine. She also really adamantly supported unrestricted Jewish immigration to Israel, which allowed Jews from any country in the world to very easily immigrate to Israel as long as they could prove that they were Jewish. She also really supported giving assistance to new African states with the goal of diplomatic support among uncommitted nations, which was essentially, she wanted to gain support of countries in Africa that haven't previously dedicated their support to Iraq or Syria or other countries that were trying to, fight against Israel. The implications of Golda's lifelong achievements were plentiful and significant. Many people in the world, both Jewish and non-Jewish, still benefiting from them today. One of the most significant things that Golda did was that by helping to establish the country of Israel, she gave the Jewish people a safe haven to always turn to in a time of need. So what was really significant was that, World War II ended, and shortly after, in 1948, she established Israel. So it was in the wake of World War II that the world realized that Israel, the Jews desperately needed a country to call their own, to turn to in a time of distress. The Jews, for the entire history of the world practically, they were always living in other foreign countries, and given in World War II when the Nazis took over so many Europe countries, they weren't safe, and the government of these countries that the Jews lived in ended up the Jews just weren't safe in other countries, and it became really clear that they needed their own country and that they couldn't rely on other foreign governments. Golda was also the first woman to serve as Prime Minister of Israel so early in the country's existence. This completely revolutionized egalitarianism in the Middle East and shaped Israel as an incredibly equal and forward-thinking society. To this day, Israel gives the same rights to women as they do to men, including mandatory military service. She also paved the way for women in public office all across the world. She was referred to often as the Iron Lady, and this term was used later to describe British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher and Indian Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. Golda Meir is truly an inspiration for all of these reasons and more, and we all have so much in our lives to thank her for, mostly, but of course not limited to, the Jewish people. Because of Golda's lifelong, relentless efforts to protect her people, the fate of the Jews rests in our hands and our hands alone. And the Jews will never again have to fear for our right to exist or our right to a home. So the next time you might be thinking that you can't accomplish something even if you really want to, or a chance for positive change presents itself to you, but you're not feeling sure, remember not to doubt yourself, because Golda was a woman, an immigrant, and was born in the 1800s, and she still managed to build and lead an entire country. If Golda could overcome all of her obstacles and accomplish all that she did, there's nothing ever that is truly impossible for you to achieve. Thank you.